You wake up. You go to work. You do the tasks. You collect the paycheck. You pay the bills. You distract yourself on the weekend. You do it again. This is not living. This is servicing your existence. And somewhere deep inside, in a place you don't like to visit, you know this. You know that this careful, managed, responsible life you've built is not actually your life at all. It's a script someone handed you, a conveyor belt you stepped onto without ever deciding to, a default setting that became permanent because you never questioned whether there was an alternative. You went to school because that's what you do. You got the degree because that's the next step. You took the job because you needed money. You stayed because leaving felt too risky. And now, here you are, safe, stable, slowly dying inside. If you're watching this, you've felt it, that hollow feeling, that sense that you're going through the motions, that quiet voice that asks in moments of stillness, is this it? Is this all there is? And you push it down, because what else can you do? You have responsibilities, bills, people depending on you, a mortgage or rent, health insurance, the whole architecture of adult life that seems designed to keep you exactly where you are. So you tell yourself, it's fine. That purpose is a luxury. That meaning is something you find in hobbies or family or small moments. That work is just work. And you shouldn't expect it to be anything more. And maybe you're right. Maybe that voice asking for more is naive, selfish, unrealistic. Or maybe that voice is the only part of you still alive. There was a man who survived the concentration camps. His name was Viktor Frankl. He lost his wife, his parents, his brother, everything, everyone. He was stripped down to nothing but his consciousness in a death camp. And he discovered something there, something that kept him alive when others gave up, something that became the foundation for an entire school of psychology. He discovered that humans can survive almost anything if they have a reason to survive, a purpose, a meaning, something beyond just existing. And he discovered the inverse, that humans will die, even in comfort, if they have no reason to keep living. If existence becomes just servicing existence, if there's nothing they're living for. He called this the existential vacuum, the void that opens up when life has no meaning beyond itself. You know this void. You feel it every Sunday night. Every morning you hit snooze. Every moment you catch yourself going through motions. You don't remember choosing. This is not about privilege. This is not about being ungrateful. This is about the fundamental human need for purpose. And Frankl said that finding that purpose requires two things, two adventures that most people never take. First, discovering what you're here to do, what calls to you, what would make your life feel like it mattered. Second, having the courage to bet your life on it, to actually pursue it, to risk the safe, stable, managed existence for something that might matter. Most people never take the first adventure. They never ask what they actually want, what would make them come alive, what they would do if they weren't afraid. And even fewer take the second. Even among those who know what they want, most will spend their entire lives wanting it from the safety of the conveyor belt, dreaming but never doing, wishing but never risking. Both adventures are terrifying. Both will cost you. Both might fail. But here's what Frankl understood. The cost of not taking them is higher. Finding your purpose is not what you think it is. It's not a lightning bolt. It's not a voice from the heavens. It's not something you discover and then know with certainty forever. It's not even really discovery. It's creation. It's decision. It's the act of choosing what you're going to make your life about and then living in alignment with that choice. Frankl was clear about this. Meaning is not found. It's made through the choices you make, through the tasks you commit to, through what you decide matters. But here's the trap. Most people never get to the choosing part because they're waiting for certainty, for proof, for a guarantee that if they pursue this thing, it will work out. That guarantee doesn't exist. You cannot know if your purpose will succeed before you commit to it. You cannot know if the thing that calls to you is the thing you're actually good at. You cannot know if the risk will pay off. All you can know is whether the question matters enough to pursue, whether the uncertainty is worth living with, whether you'd rather try and fail than never try at all. This is the first adventure, not finding the answer, finding the question worth living for. Here's how you know you've found it. It scares you, not because it's dangerous, because it matters. Because if you fail at this, it will actually hurt, because you care about the outcome in a way you don't care about the tasks you're currently doing. It pulls at you. Even when you're not thinking about it, it's there, in the background, asking to be pursued, creating a sense of incompleteness when you ignore it. It makes time disappear. When you engage with it, even just thinking about it, you lose track of time. The hours pass, and you don't notice, because you're fully present, fully engaged, fully alive. And here's the critical part. It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to change the world. It doesn't have to be impressive to anyone else. Frankl's purpose in the camp was to survive so he could rewrite the manuscript hidden in his coat. That's it. Rewrite a book. Not save humanity. Not end suffering. Just complete a piece of work that mattered to him. That purpose kept him alive when thousands around him gave up. Your purpose might be building something, creating something, teaching something, solving something, raising someone, serving someone, mastering something, exploring something. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters that it's yours, that you chose it, that it gives your days direction and your suffering meaning. Most people are not living on purpose. They're living on default. And the terrifying part is how easy it is to drift. How you can wake up one day and realize that a decade passed and you never decided any of it. You just kept saying yes to the next logical step, and now you're somewhere you never chose to be. Here's the diagnostic. Ask yourself these questions. Be honest. If money wasn't a factor, would you still be doing what you're doing? If no one would ever know, if there was no external validation at all, would you still pursue this? When you imagine yourself at the end of your life, looking back, will you be proud of how you spent this time? If the answer to any of these is no, you're on the conveyor belt. You're servicing your existence. You're doing what makes sense without asking whether it makes meaning. And here's what you need to understand. This is not sustainable. You think you can keep going like this indefinitely. Wake up, do the thing, collect the check, repeat. You think it's fine. It's responsible. It's what adults do. But Frankl saw what happens when humans live without purpose. They don't just get sad. They get sick. Depression, anxiety, addiction, all the ways humans try to fill the void when life has no meaning beyond itself. The existential vacuum creates existential neurosis. You try to fill it with consumption, with distraction, with substances, with anything that makes you feel something other than the hollow sense that your life doesn't matter. And it never works, because the void isn't about lack. It's about meaning. And meaning can't be bought or consumed or distracted away from. It can only be created through choice, through commitment, through deciding what you're going to make your life about and then actually doing it. This is the first adventure. Choosing, deciding, committing to a direction that matters to you. But here's where most people stop. They find the thing. They know what they want. They feel the pull. And then they do nothing, because the second adventure is even harder than the first. Knowing what you want is not enough. Plenty of people know. They know exactly what they'd do if they could, what they'd pursue if they weren't afraid, what would make them come alive. And they do nothing. They stay in the safe job. They keep the stable income. They maintain the responsible life. And they tell themselves it's because they have to. Because they have bills, obligations, people depending on them. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes the constraints are real. And the timing is wrong. And the responsible choice is to stay. But usually that's not what's happening. Usually what's happening is fear dressed up as responsibility. The second adventure is betting your life on your purpose, actually pursuing it, taking the risk, leaving the safety of the conveyor belt for the uncertainty of the path you actually chose. And this is terrifying, because it might not work. You might fail. You might lose the security you've built. You might discover that the thing you thought was your purpose doesn't actually sustain you. All of that is possible. All of that is risk. And you cannot eliminate the risk. You can only decide whether the risk is worth taking. Frankl would say it differently. He would say that the question is not whether you'll succeed. The question is whether you can bear to live without trying. Can you reach the end of your life knowing you never pursued the thing that called to you? Can you live with the safety you chose at the cost of the meaning you could have created? For some people, the answer is yes. And that's fine. That's a choice, a valid choice. Not everyone has to be an entrepreneur or an artist or a revolutionary. Not everyone has to blow up their life in pursuit of purpose. But if you're watching this, I suspect the answer is no. I suspect you can't bear it. I suspect the thought of looking back and realizing you never tried is more terrifying than the thought of trying and failing. That's the signal. That's how you know it's time for the second adventure. But let me be clear about something. Betting your life on your purpose is not the same as being reckless. It's not quitting your job tomorrow with no plan, and no savings, and no idea what you're doing. That's not courage. That's avoidance. That's trading one form of not thinking for another. The second adventure requires more thought than the conveyor belt, not less. Because now you're making conscious choices about risk, about timeline, about what you're willing to sacrifice, and what you're not. Here's the framework Frankl would recognize. The framework that respects both meaning and reality. First, get clear on the non-negotiables. What are you absolutely not willing to sacrifice? Your family? Your health? Your basic stability? Your integrity? Write them down. Make them explicit. Because when you're in the middle of the pursuit, when things get hard, you need to know where the boundaries are. Second, calculate the runway. How long can you actually afford to pursue this before you are run out of resources? Not how long you hope it will take. How long you can actually last. Be ruthless about this. Include savings. Include backup plans. Include the reality of what happens if this doesn't work in the time frame you're imagining. Third, define what success looks like and what failure looks like. What are the milestones that tell you you're on the right path? What are the warning signs that tell you to adjust or abort? Most people never do this. They just leap and hope. And then when things get hard, they don't know whether to persist or pivot. They don't know whether this is the struggle that precedes breakthrough or the struggle that precedes disaster. Fourth, build the bridge before you burn the boats. This is critical. You don't have to choose between safety and purpose all at once. You can build toward purpose while maintaining stability. You can start nights and weekends. You can test before you commit. You can take smaller risks before bigger ones. The goal is not to eliminate risk. The goal is to take intelligent risk, calculated risk that respects both the pull of purpose and the requirements of survival. Here's what most people miss when they calculate the cost of pursuing purpose. They only count the risks of going. They never count the cost of staying. What is it costing you to stay on the conveyor belt? What are you sacrificing every day you don't pursue what matters? Your time, your energy, your aliveness, your self-respect. The trust of the part of you that knows you're capable of more. That's not free. That's expensive. You're just paying in a currency you don't notice until it's gone. Frankl saw this in the camps. The people who survived weren't always the strongest or the healthiest. They were the ones who had a reason to survive, a purpose beyond just existing. The ones who gave up, who laid down and died, weren't physically incapable. They lost the will. They lost the reason. They lost the sense that survival mattered. You're not in a death camp, but the principle holds. Humans need purpose, need meaning, need something beyond just servicing existence. And when you deny yourself that, when you stay in the safe, stable, meaningless routine, you pay a price. Maybe not immediately, maybe not visibly, but you pay in depression, in anxiety, in the slow erosion of your sense that your life matters, in the growing certainty that you're wasting your one chance at being alive. That cost is real as the risk of pursuing purpose, maybe more real, because at least the risk of pursuit is conscious. The cost of staying is invisible until it's catastrophic. So when you're calculating whether you can afford to pursue your purpose, include both sides, what it will cost to go, and what it's already costing you to stay. You have one life, one chance at this, one opportunity to decide what you're going to make it mean. And you have two adventures available to you, two choices that will determine whether you reach the end with pride or regret. The first adventure is finding your purpose, deciding what you're here to do, what would make your life feel like it mattered, what you would pursue if you weren't afraid. This is not discovery. This is decision. This is choosing something to care about, and then letting that choice organize your life. The second adventure is betting on it, actually pursuing it, taking the intelligent risk, building the bridge and crossing it, leaving the safety of default for the uncertainty of meaning. Most people take neither adventure. They drift. They default. They service their existence without ever asking what they're servicing it for. Some people take the first adventure, but not the second. They know what they want. They feel the call. And they spend their entire lives wanting from the safety of the conveyor belt, wishing, but never doing. Very few people take both. Very few people find their purpose and then actually bet their life on it. Very few people have the clarity and the courage. But those who do, they're the ones. They're the ones who reach the end of life with peace, not because they succeeded, not because it all worked out, but because they tried, because they chose, because they made their life mean something beyond just existing. Frankl spent 3 years in death camps. He lost everything. And when he got out, he spent the rest of his life teaching what he learned, that humans need meaning more than they need comfort, that purpose matters more than safety, that the person who has a why can bear almost any how. You don't need a death camp to teach you this. You just need honesty about what your life is, about what you're willing to risk to close that gap. The conveyor belt is safe. The conveyor belt is stable. The conveyor belt is slowly killing you. And you know it. You've known it for a while now. You just haven't admitted it, because admitting it means you have to decide. And deciding means you might have to risk something. So here's the question you need to answer. Not tomorrow. Today. What is your purpose? What would make your life feel like it mattered? What would you pursue if you knew you couldn't fail? And once you know that, once you've taken the first adventure, here's the second question. What are you willing to bet on it? What risk are you willing to take? What safety are you willing to trade for meaning? You don't have to bet everything. You don't have to be reckless. But you have to bet something. You have to put skin in the game. You have to move from wishing to doing. Because at the end of your life, the question will not be whether you succeeded. The question will be whether you tried, whether you had the courage to pursue what mattered to you, whether you made your life mean something beyond just existing. Frankl survived the concentration camps so he could complete his work, so he could teach what he learned, so he could help others find meaning, so he could help others find meaning in their suffering. You don't need that level of purpose. You just need yours. Whatever it is, however small it seems. And then you need the courage to bet on it, to take the 2 adventures, to find your purpose and risk your life pursuing it. That's the only life worth living. The only life that reaches the end without regret. Everything else is just servicing existence. Comfortable, safe, empty. The choice is yours. It's always been yours. The question is whether you're ready to make it.